So welcome back to Thinksipwrite. This is episode 61, not episode 60, because episode 60
got lost in your old phone.
Yeah, so we updated phones, and we had a whole episode about how awesome October was, and or is, you know.
It's because it's your birthday month?
Yeah, but it was other things going on. But, you know, that just kind of brought us into this episode, which we've been busy, especially you.
Don't we always say that, though?
We have.
You've been busy.
It's an excuse that we're just going to keep using.
But you've been busy, if you don't like and you're gonna have a busy weekend this weekend.
I am. I got a book signing coming up and everything, and I mean, I guess I got to re-announce because I announced it in episode 60, but it's gone.
Right.
Vanished.
Well, this is what brings us to the conversation.
A new book that's out.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is going to bring the conversation of what we're talking about.
About losing things like memory, items, just everything.
Yeah.
Things that just are not quite normal.
Yeah. I actually would always, when you get like a brain fart or something, like you're serious in the middle of a conversation and out of nowhere you totally forget what you were talking about or where you were going with the story. Like, why is that?
See, for me, it doesn't normally happen that way. It normally happens where if I'm telling a story, I know what I'm talking about. But if you are telling me something, about halfway through, I'll just suddenly forget what you're talking about because I don't pay that much attention to anything.
That's good to know. No, but like I always thought about that. Like, why does that do that? Why does your brain do that? Well, on a serious note, do you know why?
No, I don't. And do you compare this to... You're talking just like kind of suddenly blanking out.
Yeah.
Kind of like when you drive in a car, right? Say you're leaving and you're going somewhere. If you're going to work or you're going to the supermarket or something, and suddenly you're there, and you're like,
"How did I get here?
I know I've been driving for 10 minutes."
Yeah, because you were zoned out.
I have no idea how I got here.
Yeah.
You can't remember anything.
Right.
And is that comparable to or comparable to losing a sock in a dryer?
Well, not necessarily.
You put both of them in there and they just don't come out?
Well, I don't know if it's that.
Is that the same thing?
No,
not really.
No,
right?
No.
Okay.
But I was always interested in knowing why we get those, brain farts. Mm-hmm. To me, that's what I call them. And they actually say it's like deficiency of like certain vitamins, which cause memory, like the memory skills and everything. It's the vitamin B12. Go ahead, say something funny. But it actually helps the brain function and nerve. What are you laughing at? What?
No, I agree.
So funny?
I agree. I'm listening. I want to hear.
What is so funny?
Nothing. I just know what my answer is going to be.
No, but it's part of not having enough vitamins for certain things that actually can cause confusion, memory loss, and like forgetfulness and stuff like that. If you don't have enough of it.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, because it helps your nerves. It helps your brain function.
Right. For me...
Oh, boy. Here we go.
The writer in me goes with, this is all proof of an alternate reality.
No. That's just weird.
Really? Is it weird? Have you ever heard of the Mandela effect?
Yeah, we were talking about that, but I've never had that.
Okay. If you don't know what the Mandela effect is, it was a terminology that came about when Nelson Mandela was still well alive. And, of course, he died in 2013. But back in, say, 2009, 2010, you have this memory of him dying.
I really don't remember.
And I had this memory, and there's a lot of people, if you look up the Mandela effect, there's a lot of people that have this memory. And I never thought about it until I heard about this. And I definitely remember him dying. But he was never dead. Mm-hmm. And I have another childhood memory where it goes back to, I had this game on, I'm dating myself here, but on the ColecoVision in the early 80s, there was a game called Time Pilot, and my brother and I got this game for Christmas one year, and we started playing it. And I remember one of the things was you could shoot these parachutes out of the sky, and the parachutes were how you gained your points. And
you can't do that.
You can't do that in a game. But him and I both remember being able to do that the first couple times you played the game.
Isn't that just like an active like memory though, an imagination, where you're wishing that was something that you did, but it's not really?
I would think so.
Like it's just your mind playing tricks on you.
I would think if it's a single person, but if more than one person remembers it, it's kind of like. I mean, this goes back into the Mandela effect. It talks about, is this proof of alternate timelines? I know that's all like kind of sci-fi type stuff, but it's just weird how the mind works because it's like it tries to fill in blanks.
Well, I think there's so much to the mind and so much to the brain that, I mean, we only use how much of our memory, of our brain?
Well, I use 110%.
No, they say that we only use like 10%?
No, 20%? I think it's been proven more like 20%.
But still, what about the what about the 80% of your brain that you're not using?
They say, so I was reading studies and there's conflicting reports. They say that you actually do use a lot more of your brain than just that 20%. But I think they're talking about the 20% all at one point, I
mean, we use certain parts for certain parts of your brain are used for certain things, like for learning, or if you miss someone's sadness, whatever, there's certain parts of your brain that release certain things, like for pleasure, like you get the endorphins, like that all comes from your brain, right?
Well, and you use, does this fall into the category of coming up with and you and I are both creative personalities, is that something that falls alongside the whole forgetting things? Do you fill in that gap by coming up with other? I'm not saying that I forget things.
Well,
I really don't,
my thing is that my brain, the way I feel like I have so many things going on at once that I feel like my brain is on overdrive. Like sometimes, like I have so many projects and so many things that I'm like it's overworked. Like my brain,
right?
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, today alone, you did like 5 different PR things.
Right.
It's just kind of like you're constantly on the go.
Right. But like even with like as an author and stuff like that, like you have a whole bunch of people talking in your head.
All the time.
But like, do you know what I mean? So like your mind is on overload as well with all these different things that you want to come up with for different books in the future and stuff like that, So, but they say that there is no limit to the amount of information you can like remember. Like it can go on and on forever, but I feel like certain memories will stay.
Definitely the
like some people can remember way back. Like what's the earliest memory that you can remember? How old were you?
No, I've got a couple of really young memories.
I think I could be like 4. I think the earliest for me is like 4 or 5.
I definitely have a vivid memory of when I was 2 years old.
Really?
Yeah. And I was in a little swimming pool at my parents' house, before they had the house that they have now. Mm-hmm. And I remember that.
Yeah.
Sitting there in that pool.
Right.
Yeah, I might have even been younger than that, but.
Yeah.
There's just weird things, but it's bits and pieces. Like, I don't remember the whole thing, but that's like a separation. I mean, you're talking.
Well, no, they actually have started to do studies on fetuses, like on babies, like while pregnant. They say at the age of 4 months, babies are already producing memory.
Absolutely.
So when they are born, they know a certain sound that they're hearing from inside the womb. That's a memory already.
And I think of as parents, I think we've experienced that. I mean, I was reading to your belly when you were a month pregnant, you know, and I was reading the Wizard of Oz books to our daughter. She's 10 now, and that's one of her favorite things. Yeah. And she loves to read, and she's very creative, and I think that all does.
But they say at the age of 4 months is when a fetus. They've done studies and stuff that they start to build these little memories, I guess, from like sound. Like I know for a fact that when I held any of my babies the first time, they knew my voice from the
Yeah,
outside.
the both of them
or
just
like
stopped crying.
or
they
music.
knew right away.
Yeah, or music or whatever. Like it's like they heard that before, you know, which I thought that was really interesting.
I did too, because like when they heard your voice, they were like calmed. When I hear your voice, I'm kind of like, they gotta hear us more, you know. But
Really?
it's kinda, not
Thanks.
really, but you know.
So what else do you have?
That's really all I have. I mean, it was really an episode about losing things.
Yeah.
And now my main question is, did episode 60 actually happen?
So, but another thing, I have a couple of things.
See now, she forgot. I just
No,
said that.
I didn't. I just blocked it out.
Blocked it.
I just blocked it out.
So,
So having quick access to information on the internet actually makes us less likely to remember. So we have quick access. We're like, oh, I can look that up real quick, and we can find it,
Yep.
and boom, we're done. You know, like we don't retain that because we know now that we have this handheld device that we can get information at any time or whatever.
Yeah,
Which is
totally
making
agree.
our brains though less functional.
We
I
are
think.
more reliant, I think, nowadays, and this goes
technology.
outside of that normal. This actually expands the whole topic that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but we're more so reliant on technology, social media, and everything for our sources of news and for everything else that we're doing. That we just kind of.
But that's what I mean. I think this is making us less functional.
Do you think we're getting dumber?
Yes.
So
People don't do research like the way they used to.
I remember. Oh my god!
You
I
can
remember
find
the
anything
research I
in
used to
2
do.
seconds on this phone, and you're done. Like, you know, it's that easy.
Well,
now.
it's that easy to find it, but like.
Do you remember having to do stuff for work, like finding newspaper articles and like going to the library and like looking up things and looking through encyclopedias? Do our kids know what encyclopedias are?
No, they don't. I'm
A
pretty sure they
dictionary? What's a dictionary?
don't. I think they know what a dictionary is, but on that note, I think there's also everybody has the world at their fingertips. They can look up anything they want. But the trick to it is, and this is what I've learned in researching for my books, is you want the facts that you find in a quick search to be real.
Right.
You know, so it's narrowing it down. You really, really have to dig in to decipher. You know, I know terminology now is real news, fake news.
Right.
You know, you have to determine what the real news, what the real fake news is, and everything else, and you got to be able to come up with what is actually the truth based on sources and back sourcing. And you know what? In all honesty, it goes back to textbooks. Yeah. So it's interesting, and I mean, I think that does dumb us down. We've dumbed down a lot, but I think the smarter portion of us, and I want to say that most of us are smarter. We realize that, you know. It's up to our generations to show the next generations. You know, not to forget. What were we talking about?
Exactly.
Anyway,
Cheers.
So to the lost episode, rest in peace.
May you rest in peace.
No one will ever hear
iCloud.
episode 60.
It's probably in the iCloud somewhere.
It's not in the iCloud because we backed it up. You know, I was told it was backed up.
Well, that's what it said.
It's not backed up. iCloud told me it backed it up. No, my phone lied to me. And here we are, episode 61.
Cheers.
Cheers.